Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Allison. If you're a first-time visitor, welcome. So today I'm wearing my Fat is the New Black t-shirt courtesy of onestop.paleoshop.com. I met them at PaleoFX this past April and it was super fun. They have really cool shirts like this. They also have it with avocados and pigs if you're not into the butter one, but I like butter. Speaking of butter, that's what I'm gonna teach you guys how to make today. And no, we're not gonna just be churning butter. I'm going to be showing you how to clarify butter. What's clarified butter? Well, it's also known as ghee, but it's basically just the butter fat taken from a regular stick of butter. You can use it for all sorts of cooking. It's great for high heat. It's great for people who are very lactose intolerant, although I've never met anyone who can't tolerate just full butter. If you're doing something like a paleo reset or the Whole30, you're not allowed to have any sort of milk protein. So this is how you get the milk protein out of your butter and still get to maintain the majority of it in just its fat form. This is easily one of the most visited how-tos on my website. Like I said, because so many people do it when they're doing elimination sort of diets. I really wanted to give you guys a good video to show how to make it, since seeing directions and pictures written out isn't always the best way to know how to do something. So let's get some hands-on showing of it, and hopefully this helps you guys. I'll post the link for this in that blog post as well, so it can be a better reference for you guys. So step one is, of course, to gather your supplies, which for this recipe is very simple. All you need is butter for the actual result. I highly recommend getting grass-fed. The composition of it is way better. Whatever an animal is raised on and how it lives and eats directly affects the quality of every product it produces, kind of like you. Kerrygold is a great brand because they're available nationwide in America, and they're pretty well priced, honestly. It's like $2 a block, and this is a cup of butter, so highly recommend that. You want a small pan, and you want a spoon for when we skim the protein that floats to the top of the fat off. And you want something to store it in. I, of course, go for the cliche little mason jar. This is a 2-cup holding mason jar, and I have 2 bars of butter, so I'm gonna make 2 cups roughly of ghee. And again, these jars are cheap too. They're like $1 a piece at most crafting stores, and I actually got a 4-pack of these at my local grocery store. So you can find them around if you wanna try and use these and be a southerner like me. All right, so first things first, you're gonna go ahead and put your burner on low heat, and I mean pretty low. So if you have an electric burner, just keep it on like a 3 is what I usually keep mine on at my apartment. Add your butter. It's okay, I'm the only one who's gonna be eating this, so I can touch it. Go ahead and plop them both in there. Look, they fit perfectly. So now we're just gonna sit and let it stand for a little bit. It's gonna melt pretty slowly. Here, I'll adjust the angle so you can see. So you can see the little puddle of melted butter starting at the bottom there. We're gonna just let this chill for a few minutes. Oh, actually heat up, but you know what I mean. It's gonna sit there. And we're just gonna wait it out. And eventually, it will look like this. This is what it will end up looking like. Keep it on a low heat like I suggest. Oop, let's turn that heat off. As soon as it starts to bubble, you want to turn the heat off. But if you keep it low enough, it won't start to do that until the butter is completely melted, which is what you want. Because as you can see, there's a tiny bit of white stuff on the top, which is protein, but the majority of it is actually underneath all that gold. And the gold is what you want. We are digging for gold in this butter. So I'm going to show you how to skim the protein off of the top and then get all of the fat that's in the middle and keep the protein layer on the bottom in the pan so that you don't have to have any of that. The protein likes to stick to whatever you put in it. See, it's kind of like a little mesh sort of thing on top. So basically all you need to do is just kind of take any old spoon and skim it out, and I'm just dumping it down the sink. Woohoo, let's make a mess. But yeah, so you just skim these little bits off of the top. And then once your butter fat is all clean and your sink is dirty, as you can see in the back, we're ready to pour the fat into our storage container. When pouring it into your container, I suggest putting it right near the edge of the sink so that when you do pour, if any of it spills out of your pan, it just goes into the sink. So basically, the top part is easy. It's just gonna
come right off. Just pour slowly so that you can catch as much of it as you can. I've got a little bit falling into the sink there, but that's okay. Whoops. All right, so once I hit the last little bit of fat, you can see how the color changes. See how there's like a yellow layer, and then underneath it looks kind of like there's a fluffy cheese or something down there? That fluffy cheese is your milk protein, and that's the thing you're trying to avoid. So if this, I mean, my jar's pretty much full, so once you get to the point where it starts to skim out protein with the fat, you can just dump the rest of it out down your sink if you want, or you can take your spoon again, lean it to one side, and just kind of get some extra scoops of fat out if you want to just really get as much as you can. But eventually when you're dipping your spoon in like this, the protein will start, see the protein kind of starts to crawl in there. You can dump it back out and try at another spot, but eventually the protein will, see there's some floating on the top. Eventually the protein will be too close to the top of the fat, and you won't be able to get any more fat out without having some protein sneak in there too. Like I said before, people who are lactose intolerant usually don't really get bothered by the amount of milk protein in butter, but if you're doing something like the Whole30, you want to avoid as much of the milk protein as possible, so you don't want to risk it.
Make sure for storage of ghee, you let it cool down all the way. Right now it's still very liquidy and hot to the touch. So I'm just gonna let it sit out without a lid on for half an hour just to cool down to room temperature, and then I can go ahead and throw the lid on and put it in the fridge. If you don't have the time to let it sit out, like you need to be somewhere, that's fine. You can put the lid on and just put it in the fridge. It's just gonna be a little bit harder to get the lid off the first time you wanna open it back up. So keep that in mind. So there you have it. That's how you make your own ghee at home. The advantages of making this little guy yourself rather than buying it. I have always made my own ghee. I like to do things myself and learn how to make things, but one time they were out of Kerrygold at the grocery store I went to, and I couldn't find any other grass-fed butter, and the only ghee I could find was, I think, $7, whereas, like I said, 2 cups of Kerrygold is $2 a piece, $4. I was getting half the ghee for almost twice the price. So it's definitely more cost-effective to make your own. Plus you get to choose the kind of butter that you use in it, whereas if you buy just ghee at the store, you don't know if it's grass-fed or organic, if that's even available. Get unsalted butter if you really want salt in it. I guess you can mix some into the ghee once it's done, but honestly, butter fat in itself, ghee, clarified butter, whatever you want to call it, it's just delicious. I eat some every day. It's great for bulletproof coffee, for cooking. Like I said, it deals with high heats very well. So it's very versatile, and you can actually just use ghee in place of butter in most recipes, and it turns out just fine, including baking things. I always try to keep some ghee in the house. I just prefer using it. Like I said, milk proteins don't really bother me, in butter at least. It's just another way to avoid some extra bloating if you want to take 10 minutes to make some ghee. So I hope this was a helpful video for you guys, and please let me know what you'd like to see next.